Hey guys, so let's take a look at the graphics card market. What's going on? We're going to take a real look at some stores and see what's available. At the end of the day, if you're going to go buy a graphics card, that's what you're going to see. First, let's go to Micro Center. Not everybody has a Micro Center, but it's a pretty good bellwether for what's out there. Like if it's not at Micro Center, good chances are you're not going to find it anywhere else. Right at the top, we see a decent amount of 4090s. Remember, the 4090 was actually like sold out for a while, so it's nice to see them back. I noticed they came back right around the time the 4080 Super came out, so a few months ago, not too long ago. At the very top, we see at 1939 with 6 in stock, the 4090 Gaming X Trio. Very expensive. That's almost a $2,000 4090. As sort of we go down the line here, pricing doesn't seem to get too much better. It's still above 1900, various MSI models. And then finally, the cheapest one that we do find here is a Gigabyte 4090 Aero. This one's going to be about $1849, but it is in the white color. I know people love white GPUs, but I just like a regular GPU. I haven't really been too enthused about all the, even the Strix where they have the white version. I always like the standard, black version. I think it looks so much better. But as you can see, aside from having a decent amount of 4090s, or actually the 1849 4090, I see it now. It's sold out. So the only ones available are actually over $1,900. So that's probably why they're, still available. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. Over $1,900. Remember, the 4090 MSRP should be $1,599. So there should have been some models here, but apparently there aren't. And then we have a huge delta between those 4090s and then you have just an A4500, a workstation card. But look at the next GPU. It goes literally from 1939 in stock to $1,069.99. That's going to be AMD Radeon 7900 XTX. As you can see, no 4080s or 4080 Supers anywhere to be seen. All of the GPUs around $1,000, a little bit below $1,100, all AMD 7900 XTX. Maybe Micro Center didn't want to get a lot of 4080 Supers because they knew they would never sell the 7900 XTX at a higher price. Remember, 4080 Super should be $999. And as we get under 1,000, $949.99, still a 7900 XTX. No 4080 Super to be seen. In fact, the next NVIDIA GPU after the 4090 is going to be a lowly 4070 Ti Super at $879, much more than its $799 price. But you can see, either you buy a really expensive 4090, or else if you want NVIDIA, you're going to have to go to the 4070 Super. So that's basically $1,100 less. But it is a different tier of GPU. The only thing in the middle there is that 7900 XTX. It almost looks like the store here kind of set it up like this, or else they would never sell these AMD GPUs. So let's keep looking, and you can see there's a lot of 4070 Ti Supers here. Still $879, $869. You even have a 4070 Ti. You got to be careful when you're buying these GPUs. You're going to find 4070 Ti's that are sort of stock from before. They're still basically the same price. Look, they're kind of intermingled. Look at this. An 859 Asus 4070 Ti is more expensive than an 849 4070 Ti Super from PNY. So the pricing is all over the place. If you're a consumer who doesn't necessarily know the difference between a 4070 Ti and the 4070 Ti Super, you may just walk right in and buy a 4070 Ti if nobody tells you otherwise. And the 4070 Ti Super, definitely for the same price, it's a much better GPU. You're going to get 4 gigabytes more VRAM, even though the rasterization performance isn't a huge difference. That extra VRAM is worth, getting the 4070 Ti Super, especially at the same price. It's literally a no-brainer. And before we turn the page here, we could see a lot more 4070 Ti's mixed in with 4070 Ti Supers, all over $800. So we do see a $799 here. This is a 4070 Ti, not a Super. at $799, but it's an open box that you can get for $679, which is still not too great. But as you can see, no MSRP 4070 Ti Supers either. And then apparently you have some weird GPUs here, a 3090 Ti Founders Edition and 3090. These are all refurbished, under $800. Very weird. I guess somewhere had a lot of these GPUs and now Micro Center is selling them. As we go down, we do see one 4070 Ti, a regular one at $749. 25 of those in stock. So at least that's cheaper than the 4070 Ti Supers, but it's still a little bit not really the best idea. Now, the 7900 XT, same thing, $749 in the 700. And then to get to the next NVIDIA GPU, you really do have to go down to, there is a Zotac one in stock, a 4070 Ti for $719. That's the cheapest 4070 Ti. Not super, regular version. But then you start running into either 4070s that are really expensive, around $699, or I've never seen this many like last generation stock. Look at this, 3080 Ti Founders Edition, 25 plus in stock at $699. So that's a lot of GPUs, and they're all refurbished. Who knows where they came from? I have never seen this many for sale. From last generation. So that shows you how many GPUs are really out there that have not been sold. And then you go down the list, lots of 4070 Supers in that high $600 range. And once again, they do seem to mix with some 4070s. Like look at here, 649, an RTX 4070 Tough, not super, right next to a bunch of super GPUs. So the GPU market is an absolute mess. Not only does a big store like Micro Center have all of these last generation GPUs for people to browse and maybe even buy, I don't know why you would, because most of the new GPUs are going to be better. You're going to have DLSS 3, better power draw, even though those are founder editions that they have and they're refurbished, they're not even new. But the biggest problem are all of the newer GPUs, let's say 4070 and up. The pricing is like kind of crazy because the old models are next to the new models. You'll have 4070s next to 4070 Supers, basically the same price. The same thing with 4070 Ti and 4070 Ti Super. You're going to have those at basically the same price. Then to make it more confusing, you'll have the AMD GPUs thrown in there along with last generation Founder Edition GPUs that are refurbished. So if you're not a savvy consumer, it's very easy to get confused in this GPU market. It's not like before where, all right, you either get a 4090 or you get a 4080 or a 4070. It was pretty clear and it wasn't really this messy. I think the reason this happened is that the GPU market hasn't been good and they've just had all these models left over. Look at why the problem exists. Why do they still have a 4070 to sell next to a 4070 Super? That's because it didn't sell out. So in that case, they're going to have to still sell them because it's in their inventory, especially a big store like Micro Center. They have, multiple locations across the country. So I'm sure they get a lot of GPUs. So very interesting to see this. And as we get under sort of that $600 mark, you're going to start to see the regular 4070s and then 7800 XT. That's going to be basically where these GPUs sort of end up. And then obviously you're going to find a lot less, like a 4070 Super, you're not going to find really under $600 unless it's used. So it's going to be a little bit easier to take a look. And then to add into more confusion, you're going to have a 7900 GRE. Somebody looking at a 7900 XTX or an XT, then they see a GRE for $549. It's still a 7900 in name, right? That's pretty confusing because you have a pretty big, performance difference between something like that and a 7900 XTX. So, and then of course, as you get into the $500 range, the confusion continues because now you also have, last generation AMD GPUs entering the conversation. Like over here, look, the RX 6950 XT for $549. And then it's mixed in with 6900 XT with 4070s. So if you're a GPU historian or you like collecting GPUs, this is going to be like a nice little museum for you because literally everything is still on sale, even from last generation. Obviously, you may not find like a 20 series, even though I've seen them before, like a 2080 Ti. Once in a while, it's still going to pop up, but most likely you're not going to see it. And then obviously you start to get into the 4060 Ti, but then that's confusing too because 16 gigabytes versus 8 gigabyte model, that's going to be two different pricing structures. Then you have the 7700 XT. There are way too many GPUs on the market, and this is just like ridiculously confusing for the consumer. I guess this is the culmination of GPUs not selling, and everything just has to be like smacked together. So this is like really interesting to see. I've never seen the Micro Center stock so, I guess you could call it messy, or you could call it varied, depending on which point of view. I mean, there's so many different types of GPUs. Basically, they have like most of the GPUs from last generation and the ones from this generation. Aside from that 4080 and 4080 Super, those really did disappear. So I guess people bought up those 4080 Supers. They did sell out initially, but I guess they haven't restocked, and NVIDIA probably just had a small amount of inventory of those. And then as you get under $400 and $300, certainly there's a lot of confusion still. Or here we go. Here's a 2080 Ti. See, I told you they got everything. Look at that. Asus RTX 2080 Ti ROG Strix. Look at that. $379. You get a 2080 Ti. I've never seen so many old GPUs like this. Usually they'll have something from last generation, like here or there, but I've never seen like 25 plus of like a 3080 Founders Edition or something like that. So that's pretty crazy, the amount of old GPUs that they have. Even a 2080 Ti. In fact, I do have a 2080 Ti. I just pulled it out. 2080 Ti. This is actually, there's no GPU here. This is actually just a cooler because I water cooled the GPU. So just something that popped up, I guess. But this is a beautiful cooler. The Founders Edition from that generation is really nice. That's why I kept the cooler for display. The GPU is long gone, but I thought the cooler was really beautiful. Anyway, seeing these 2080 Ti's for sale here as I'm looking on my screen, pretty incredible. And then obviously, as you get under 300, it continues to be a mess in the market. Definitely a lot of GPUs you can choose from, but it's hard to find which one is going to be the best, especially if you want the best bang for your buck. It certainly is very confusing from the high-end GPUs even down to the lower-end GPUs. So that's really, really tricky. Very interesting to see this sort of mesh of everything. All right, guys, so remember to subscribe. Let me know what you think down below of these GPUs, and I'll see you guys on the next video.